If you build a strong retirement savings, maxed out your Social Security record, and don't need the income right away, you've probably heard the classic advice, just wait until you're 70. It's the smartest move. And on paper, that sounds right. You'll get an 8% boost every year you delay after full retirement age. That's a guaranteed return, right? But here's the catch. When you're a high income earner, the question isn't just how big is the check, it's how does this decision affect everything else in my plan, like your taxes, portfolio withdrawals, and your Medicare premiums, even your spouse's survivorship benefit. So in this video, I want to walk you through why the best age to take Social Security isn't always 70, and how to figure what's right for you. Hi, I'm Dan Shevlin, president of 2020 Financial Group, and today I want to help you look at Social Security not in isolation, but in the context of your entire financial picture. If you want help building a strategy that aligns Social Security with your overall plan, book a time with me using the link below. Let's dive in. Number one, let's get into the basics. What happens at 62, 67, and 70? Let's quickly lay out the timeline because understanding the basics is key before we get into the strategy. You can start taking Social Security benefits as early as age 62. But if you do, you're accepting a permanent reduction in your monthly check, up to 25 or 30% less than what you'd get at full retirement age. Full retirement age, often FRA is what it's called, is between age 66 and 67, depending on the year that you're born. That's when you're eligible for your full benefit with no reduction or bonus. And then there's age 70, the maximum age to delay. For every year you wait past FRA, your benefit increases by about 8% a year due to what's called delayed retirement credits. So if your full benefit is, say, $3,500 per month at age 67, and you wait until 70, you'll be looking at something closer to $4,340 per month. That's a significant bump, especially over the course of 20 or 30 years of retirement. But here's the thing most people miss. The higher number isn't always the smarter number, especially for high earners. Because when you zoom out and look at how Social Security interacts with the rest of your income strategy, your IRAs, 401k, taxable accounts, or even Roth conversions, delaying doesn't always create the best result. And that's what we're going to unpack next. Number two, why wait until 70? This isn't always best for high earners. Now look, I'm not here to knock the idea of waiting to 70. In a lot of cases, it does make sense. You get a bigger check, you create longevity insurance, and you increase survivor benefits. But if you're a high earner, you're not making this decision in a vacuum. You've probably built up a sizable IRA or 401k, a taxable brokerage account, maybe even some real estate or pension income. And you might not even need Social Security right away. So the real question becomes, what happens to the rest of my plan if I wait? The trade-off, portfolio drawdown versus guaranteed growth. If you delay until 70, you need to replace that income from somewhere else for up to 8 years. For most high earners, that means pulling from their pre-tax retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, or personal savings. And when you do that, you're losing the potential for compound growth on those investments, possibly even triggering more capital gains. And maybe pulling from tax-deferred accounts before you had a chance to do any meaningful Roth conversions. So yes, your Social Security check gets bigger, but your tax flexibility may shrink. Here's a real example. I had a client, we'll call him Kevin, who planned to wait until 70 for Social Security. He didn't need the income, so the logic made sense on the surface. But when we ran the numbers, we found that pulling from his IRA for 8 years caused his RMDs at 73 to jump significantly. His Medicare premiums, they also spiked, and he missed the window for tax-efficient Roth conversions in his mid-60s. We ended up recommending he take his Social Security at 67 instead. That gave his IRA room to breathe, allowed us to do conversions in the 12 to 22% tax bracket, and reduce his lifetime tax bill by 6 figures. And that's the part most people miss. It's not about how Social Security pays, it's about how well it coordinates with the bigger plan. Number 3, how other income changes the strategy when you're deciding when to take Social Security. One of the biggest factors to look at is this. What other income do I have or will I have in retirement? Because if you're like most high earners, Social Security is just one piece of a much bigger income puzzle. And the way that puzzle fits together can dramatically change the ideal timing for your benefits. Let's talk income streams. You might have a sizable IRA or a 401k, a taxable brokerage account with capital gains, Roth assets or inherited IRAs, pension income, deferred compensation, or rental income from real estate. And each of those income sources behaves differently from a tax standpoint. So how and when you withdraw from them while coordinating with when you take your Social Security can mean the difference between keeping your tax bill low and Medicare premiums manageable, or getting pushed into a higher bracket, triggering IRMA surcharges. Why timing matters for taxes. Here's where it gets real for high earners. If you delay Social Security, you may have more room in your taxable income early on to do Roth conversions while your income is lower. Realize long-term capital gains at 0 to 15%, and strategically draw from tax-deferred accounts to reduce those future RMDs. But if you start Social Security too early, you might reduce the window for Roth conversions, bump up your taxable income, or even cause more of your Social Security to become taxable, up to 85%. And you might shorten your timeline for planning flexibility before those RMDs hit at 73. Example, I worked with a couple who had just retired at 64. Their plan was to wait until 70 for Social Security, but when we looked at their other income sources, we realized that pulling from IRAs for 6 years would force them into higher brackets later. So instead, we had one spouse start Social Security at 65 and use that income to reduce IRA withdrawals. Meanwhile, we did targeted Roth conversions every year to shrink the RMD problem down the road. That single change gave them more tax-free income later, lower Medicare premiums, and a smoother retirement cash flow. The bottom line is, Social Security timing isn't just about when do I get the biggest check. It's about how that check fits in with everything else you've built. So you can maximize your income, minimize your taxes, and stay flexible as life evolves. Number 4, what about spousal and survivor benefits? If you're married or ever were, this is a part of Social Security most people overlook until it's too late. Your decision doesn't just affect you. It can directly impact your spouse's financial future, especially if you're the higher earner. Let's break this down. Your spouse may be entitled to up to 50% of your full retirement benefit, depending on when they claim and how your benefits compare. But here's the bigger issue for high earners. Survivor benefits, when one spouse passes, the surviving spouse typically gets the larger of the two Social Security checks and loses the smaller one. So if you're the high earner, your benefit likely becomes the survivor benefit. That means your decision to take Social Security at 62, 67, or 70 doesn't just affect your retirement, it affects your spouse's income for the rest of their life. A real example, I had a couple come in, John and Karen. John was the high earner, projected to receive $3,800 a month at age 70. He was planning to claim early at 63 because they didn't need the money, and he wanted to travel more. But when he looked at the survivor scenario, Karen outliving him by 10 to 15 years, the picture changed. If he claimed early, her survivor benefit would be closer to $2,600 a month. If he waited to 70, that jumped to $3,800 a month, inflation adjusted for the rest of her life. That extra income, combined with a Roth income strategy and lower RMDs, made a massive difference in her long-term plan. They ultimately decided he would delay until 70 and she would claim her own benefit earlier to bridge the gap. That smart coordination gave them clarity. Bottom line, if you're the higher earner, don't just think about your benefit in isolation. Think about how long your spouse might live, what income they'll depend on after you're gone, and how your decision affects their security. Sometimes the best Social Security strategy is about helping to preserve assets for both of you, not just maximizing a number. Number 5. So what's the best age to claim? Let's bring this full circle. If you're a high earner, the question isn't how do I get the biggest Social Security check? The real question is when should I claim to get the best result across my entire retirement strategy? And the answer, it depends on a few key factors. Ask yourself, do I need Social Security to cover lifestyle expenses right now? Am I trying to optimize for long-term taxes, not just income? Will delaying create more flexibility for Roth conversions or RMD reductions? Am I the high earner in a marriage? And if so, what happens to my spouse if I pass away? And how long do I reasonably expect to live based on health and family history? For many high earners, waiting until 67 to 70 works really well if it coordinates with the rest of your plan. But I've also worked with clients who claimed earlier strategically to unlock better tax efficiency and reduce pressure on their portfolio. The right answer isn't about ego or fear. It's about running the numbers and understanding the trade-offs. Look, Social Security is one of those guaranteed income sources you'll have in retirement. And the decision about when to take it, that's not a one-size-fits-all answer, especially if you're a high earner. Because for you, this isn't just about a bigger monthly check. It's about how that check fits into your bigger picture. Your investment withdrawals, your tax bracket, your Roth conversion opportunities, your Medicare premiums, and maybe most importantly, your spouse's long-term security if something happens to you. And here's what I tell my clients. The people who get this right aren't always the ones who waited the longest. They're the ones who plan the smartest. So if you're trying to figure out the right time to take your Social Security and how this fits into everything else you've built, let's make sure you're looking at the full picture. Click the link below to book a free strategy call with me. We'll run through your estimated benefits, your current income and tax situation, your retirement accounts and how they interact with Social Security, and whether claiming early at full retirement age or delaying is actually going to serve you best. No guesswork, no pressure, just a clear, customized plan. And if this video gave you some clarity or made you rethink the default wait until 70 advice, do me a favor, tap like, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment below. What age are you thinking about claiming Social Security? And what's making you hesitate? I'd love to hear where you're at. Thanks for watching. I'm Daniel Shevlin, and I'll see you in the next video.